Pastor Chris Monahan here. I want to say welcome to our weekly Gateway broadcast of the week. I want to take a few moments today and go through what we call the 4-season personality profile. Man, I'll tell you, having self-awareness is something that as Christians, just human beings in general, we need to have self-awareness, like what's going on inside of me, who am I, and also understanding other people. And I want to give you this, what we call the 4-season personality profile, something we use regularly with our partnership team, those who are part of our team at Gateway Church, and any partners that come in deciding to be part of our culture. We take them through this personality profile, and it's very similar to if you've taken, let's say, the DISC profile. It's very similar, and it's the idea that there's 4 different types of people in the world, and you're one of them. You have certain bents, certain things that drive you, certain things that anger you, certain things that you prefer, certain things that really bug you, certain things that you're really chill about. And if we can understand who we are, then we can also understand better understand the people around us. So we're not walking around frustrated, but we say, okay, this is just who they are and who I am. And so today I want to help you discover your unique design. And this will be about an hour teaching. And many of you will go through this later as part of our partnership class and understand it. But I want to just make this available to you today. And, if you love studying people and studying yourself, this is a great profile. It's a great teaching for you to equip you to help you understand your spouse, your coworkers, your boss, your children. Man, the more understanding you have, the greater grace that you can give people in understanding how they operate. In this great book called Keep Your Love On by Danny Silk, he said this: only those who value and understand themselves can value and understand others. And we need to understand, like, what are the gifts that God has given me? Who am I? And how do I operate? And then understand the value of what you do and how you operate. And when we look at these things in our partnership class, one of the things that we tell people is, what motivates you? What is, when you wake up in the morning, what are the things that really drive you? Do you like working with numbers? Do you like working with people? Do you like working with things? Do you like talking about, emotional issues? Or are you more of a private person? These are different things that motivate us or they scare us, And if we understand kind of our makeup, how God created us, not so that we stay dysfunctional in any way, but just so we have a better understanding of who we are. We understand what drives us, what angers us, what gets us, what makes us want to, rise up and do something. And then, what touches you, what grips you. And if you understand those things and then you're able to communicate those things, it will help you be more effective in your life. Like, say, the job that you choose, it should be probably about 80% of your strengths. And there's things like in what I do as a pastor and a leader of a ministry and, assisting in feeding people in our community as well. There's some things that I really have to summon up energy to do because it's not in my gift base, but because it's my job, I do it. But the most ideal thing is you gather people around you to help fill in those areas where, it's just harder for you to do or more difficult for you to do. And that's what I want to help you gain some self-awareness today. And I want to kind of put you in one of these different profiles, at least understanding maybe your greatest strength and also the area that you're most weak in, and help you understand that. What we find is that there's 4 things that drive people. One is significance. Some people are driven just to accomplish great things, and that's what they're driven for. They want to make a significant impact on the world that they live. And then there's other people who really strive for recognition. They want to be known by people of great authority, and that's what drives them. They love to connect with people that carry authority, and they also want to be, respected by those people. That's a big deal for some people. There's other people who are driven by excellence. Do it right. That's That's what drives them. Never tell them, well, that's good enough. They'll go crazy. They're like, no, we got to do it right. And that's a good drive. And we also have people that are driven for unity, driven for connection. That's one of the most important things for them is well, how, when they make a decision, they're not thinking, how can I impact the most people? They're going to think when they're making a decision instead, well, how's this going to affect everyone that's involved in my life? That's going to be one of their first thoughts because like there's four different, we look in scriptures, there's four different gospels. Why is there's four different gospels? Because I think each one appeals to each different personality. You think about there's four different directions, north, south, east, and west, four different math operations, addition, subtraction, multiplication, four suits of cards. We have clubs, spades, hearts, and diamonds. So they're just the idea to see things just as we look at people, we see that there's four different types of people out in the world for us to understand. And by the end of the class, hopefully you'll be able to say, okay, I think I know who I am. And the way I set this up is it's based on, like I said, it's based on the disc profile, but I think what makes it a little easier is that you see yourself as one of the four seasons. You're either a winter, summer, an autumn, or a spring. And when we look at this chart here, you're going to be able to understand and pick what you are, what drives you, what you're based upon. It also has a lot to do with even the temperature. If you think about in the winter months, you gotta wear more clothes. These are the people that or more, they're not warm toward people, but they're more driven toward tasks. And summers, because, you think in summertime, everyone's really wears a lot less clothes. You see a lot more, everybody's more open in those seasons. That's the same way we would relate to the way people are with people. Some people are more private and some people are more open. And we'll take a look at how that plays out. But if you look at this chart, what you're going to see is that on this chart, you have intense people, and the winter and summer are more intense people. They're harder to get along with. They're just strong leaders. They're very driven. They're not as concerned about just the status quo. They want to see things move forward. They're more heavenly minded, more visionaries. And then we have the autumn and the spring. They're more moderate people, more chill, easier to get along with. I love autumn and spring people. They don't drive people crazy. They're just kind of easygoing, easy to get along with. And if you think about in the seasons, when in wintertime, you have to adjust your clothing. If it's 10 below, you can't wear whatever you want. You're going to have to put on gloves. You're going to have to put on the right clothing so that you don't get frostbite. Same for summer people. They are people that can burn you. They can you get around them, and it's like you go on vacation and the first day you lay out in the sun and you're burned to a crisp because you didn't prepare for the summer weather. But in autumn and spring, what you wear inside you can wear outside. They're easier to get along with. You don't have to prepare to be around them. That's how the 4-season profile works. Are you an intense person or are you a moderate person? The other thing on the other side of the graph is that the winter and autumn people, they're more task driven. They're more driven to getting tasks done. So for me, for instance, I'm more of a winter person. I would say a winter personality, that my focus is going to be on tasks. So if I walk into a room, I'm going to notice first the chairs are out of order. If the window's not closed or the picture's crooked, I'm going to notice that first. Where someone like my wife is more of a summer personality, she's more people driven. She's going to notice, let's say so-and-so looked depressed today. And I'll be like, oh, I didn't even notice. Where on the other hand, I'll drive in. I'm like, hey, did you see the lawn wasn't mowed? And they'll be like, no, the lawn, I didn't notice. I was looking at, people. And so you have the winter and autumn are more task driven. The summer and spring people are more people driven, emotions driven. And that's what they recognize first. And we're going to go, this may seem like a lot at first, but as we go through this, we'll go through each one individually. So if you'd consider yourself a winter person, you're a task driven and you're an intense person. If you're an autumn person, you're a more moderate, easy to get along with person, but you're also a task driven. The autumns would be more like the, let's say, accountants, or they like the right policy and procedure. They like the details of things, but they don't necessarily want to, are these people who have great vision that to accomplish great things. And again, the problem with the winners is they're oftentimes trying to accomplish great, significant things, but they don't look at the details of things, and that gets them into trouble later. The spring are going to be moderate, people-driven profiles. So their focus is going to be on connecting with people. They're kind of like the seed that's planted in the ground. They're sensitive. They need a lot of care, and they're sweet people. They love people, and they're easy to get along with. But the summers are highly driven people. They can be sometimes a little over dramatic, but they're great leaders. These are the people that actually bring heaven to earth. Oftentimes, they're very people driven and they're intense. So then they want to go deep emotionally. They're very open about their own lives. They're not private like the winters and autumns. They're more private people, cold toward people. And the spring and the summer, they're going to be more open for people and open about their lives, open about their personalities. And so you find that a lot of times conflict comes because we don't understand how each of us have been created. We don't place value or understanding upon who I am and who you are. And once we have a better understanding, it helps us kind of navigate relationships and the things that we're called to do in this season. So as we continue moving forward, just a couple things that I would say would be the mottos for the winters. They are the get it done people. They want to get it done. Doesn't matter what we got to do. We're going to make it happen. Doesn't matter if we don't get it done right necessarily. It doesn't matter if it doesn't get done fun, or I'm going to get it done, but I'm going to do it by myself if I have to. And this is what a winter will do. Like, that's my mentality. My wife buys something that needs to be put together. I'm just thinking I'm going to rip that thing out of the box and I'm going to put that thing together and get it done. Even if I don't have the right tools or we don't have space for it, there's something in me that's really driven to get it done. And then you have the autumns are about getting it done right. And these are the people that are the engineers. These are the people that are the people that want to see perfection, even though perfection never really happens. But they're people that they want things done with excellence. And so if they have a project to get done, they're going to make sure that they have all the tools. They're not going to even open up the box until everything is there. It's together. Okay, now we're ready to do it. We have a place for it. Now let's put it together. The springs are going to be the people that they want to get it done together. They're like, if we're going to do this, hey, we got to put this. Let's see. Hey, I know somebody that could help me with this. I know somebody that's done it before. Let's get a group of us together and let's put this thing together. And we're going to have it's going to be a great unifying thing as we get this thing out of the box and put it together. And the summer, they're gonna want to make sure it's fun. Well, they bought the thing. I'm just going to tell you, because they thought, man, this thing is going to be great, And so they're probably the one that bought the thing in the box. And they just want everybody to have fun. They want people to get along. They want to see things accomplished, And so they're visionaries, but they have a different perspective. I like to use the elevator analogy. So if a winter gets on an elevator and they get on and they see people coming down toward the elevator, they're going to be pushing that button, trying to get the door to shut so they can get to the next floor. They don't want to wait for all these people to get on. Where the summer will probably hold the door open. Come on, everybody. Hey, is there anybody else who wants to get on? They want to make this like a fun experience as we're going up to the next floor, because they're people driven. But the winters are going to be like, hey, I just want to get to the next floor. You take the next elevator. So there's positives and there's negatives about each of these that we have to recognize. And that's what we want to do in this next part, is now go through each of these individually. And I want to use some examples that you can relate to. And by the time we're done, maybe you'll be able to see, well, when you're going through this in our course, you'll be able to actually label it out, take a little quiz, and it'll help you, and will help you as well see who you are. If you have any questions, as you're going through the quiz and answering the questions, what will happen is that we can maybe help you fine tune that, because no one is going to be like 100% a winter, probably not, or 100% a summer. Like if I look at my life, I'm probably 60, 70% winter, 30% spring, maybe 10% summer. Everyone's a different variety, but I know what my greatest weakness is, and I also know what my strength is. And I think if you can walk away with that, and for those you love and those you're working with, it'll create a lot more grace in your life. And how many know I need more grace to better understand people? So I want to go ahead and start with the winter. The winter, again, they're intense, fast-moving, risk-taking, harder to manage type of people. Again, they're the coldest season, so they're going to be the ones with the most clothes on. They're going to be the least approachable. They're going to be the ones probably that are not very open about their lives. They're more private. They're very task-driven. They want to accomplish great things and do great things for God, do great things for the world. When we look in the Bible, we find that Moses was a winter personality. And we'll use a story about his life and a few people in his life to better understand how a winter thinks and a winter operates. But God chose Moses to lead the people out of Egypt. What did God do? He gave him the laws, the ways, the instructions of how to live, because he knew Moses would be someone that cared about the laws and cared about how things functioned. What the key things about Moses in a winter is they're driven by significance. They're dominant. They're decisive. They're not afraid to make decisions. And then they're faithful. You can expect when they agree to do something, they are going to get it done, and they're going to get it done now. They love to accomplish things. When we look at some of the famous winters throughout either the Bible or even in history, King David was a winter. He was very driven, a warrior, and greatly accomplished, for Israel, versus his son Solomon, who was more of talk with people. People came to him and got instruction from him, and he taught them. But David was more of a private person in a lot of ways, but also had a drive to, he gathered everything together to build the temple. Paul the Apostle was definitely a winter, a teacher, very driven to go to the nations and accomplish great things. Nehemiah, some of the Bible characters. But I'll tell you, some of the most famous winters, President Trump, what a winter. I mean, you talk about, a man of great accomplishment, just longing to accomplish things and get things done. And, but what was his greatest strength was accomplishing things. But again, that's what was his biggest struggle oftentimes is he didn't, care about, and I'm saying he didn't care about people's emotions, but that was the big thing. People were like, oh, he was insensitive. Same thing with Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill was saved Western civilization. They used to call him a warmonger until they realized, oh my gosh, we're in war. We need Winston. And Winston just held Great Britain together, and so that they were able to stand up against the Nazi regime and to overcome. And but after the war was over, they kicked Winston Churchill out because they didn't think he was sensitive enough or warm enough. Later on in his life, he came back into British Parliament, but he was a great leader. Get it done. What do we got to do? And then, of course, General Patton, the great military leader, general in World War II, who the Nazis feared, our enemies feared him. He was a tough general, and he would accomplish great things on the battlefield. And what a great leader. But how did he lose his position? Is because one time he got caught on camera beating a soldier who he said was a coward, and he was like slapping him and criticizing him and just, trying to get him back on the battlefield. And that was his downfall. They thought, wow, he's so insensitive. But that's not his strength, and that's what happens is sometimes is our greatest strength becomes our downfall. And that's one of the things I want you to be aware of in this teaching is what you do best oftentimes will cause your downfall. Now, when we talk about Moses, one day after Moses had grown up, he went out to where his own people were and watched them at their hard labor. He saw an Egyptian beating a Hebrew, one of his own people, looking this way and that, and seeing no one, he killed the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. All right, so this is how Moses takes care of the issue. There's a problem. All right, we're gonna kill the guy and bury him in the sand. That's what got him into trouble. That's what sent him away for 40 years from Egypt. And we realized that we can't just do things to accomplish things. We sometimes have to step back and evaluate our lives. The winter, they're task driven. They have a lot of rules, law awareness. These people are going to be very sensitive to the rules, and they can have a tendency to be sometimes maybe legalistic, but we live in a culture right now that is against laws. They're becoming a lawless group of people, and what we have to see is that laws have tremendous value to our society. We don't want to become legalistic, but we don't want to become lawless either. And there's a ditch on either side of the road. There's a ditch of lawlessness and there's a ditch of legalism. But we need to stay loving the law, loving God's laws, loving God's rules, and putting our faith in those things without getting into either ditch. And this is what happened with Moses for a season. He was very driven. You can see Moses was tending the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, the priest of Midian. He led the flock to the far side of the wilderness and came to Horeb, the mountain of God. But I want you to notice that Moses wasn't satisfied just taking his flock to some, to close to where he was. I mean, he was very driven to take his flock to the far side of the wilderness. And that's the way winters are. They're driven for greatness. They're driven to do things that no one else does, that have never been accomplished. That's just inside of them. And they drive the fall, the autumn, and the spring people crazy. Like, what are these people going to think next? And we have to be aware if we're working for, or we're married to, or we have a child that's a winter, because they're gonna always be driven for significance. And sometimes they're not going to want to do small things that they seem that are insignificant. And we just have to work with them. Say, hey, sometimes one day you'll be a great leader, but right now you're called to serve. And God will, give you significant things. If you're faithful in little, he'll give you more. And so again, with the winter, there are, 4 different profiles, and understanding who you are really helps us in the long run. So God sent Moses to deliver the people out of Egypt. He said, so now go, I'm sending you to Pharaoh to bring my people, the Israelites, out of Egypt. And when God told Moses to do that, he's like, yes, I'll do it. I'm on it. I'm ready to go. And, we can see that, Moses was given the law. Moses was there with the Lord 40 days and 40 nights without eating bread or drinking water. And he wrote on the tablets of the words, the covenant, the 10 commandments. So they're very good with handling God's commandments. That's what they're called to do. And we need to honor people who have that gifting and calling. But we also have to be prepared to be around these people, because they can be kind of rough. They're not going to worry about our feelings. They're not going to worry about our emotions as much, because they're like, hey, we got to get this task done. And I like this little mouse here that has this helmet on. He's ready to do what he's got to do. And we can't be oversensitive if we have a winter in our life, because they're not going to be too sensitive to our emotions. And we have to deal with it sometimes. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong. This is just the way people are sometimes, and understanding them. The direction north is also tied into the idea of a winter, because they're very heavenly minded. They focus on, great things, promotion, exaltation, majesty, throne is the direction of north. And it's very tied into the idea of winter. not only is it cold, but it's just the idea of pressing in for greatness, for heavenly things. But sometimes they're not practical. Sometimes they don't do, it's not about winning all the time. It's also about preparing to win. And so sometimes they can fall into pride and just thinking, I can do anything, I'm ready, when they actually need some more training. Yeah, come on. Hebrews 3:2 talks about Moses, that he was faithful to the one who appointed him, just as Moses was faithful in all God's house. A winter is driven by faithfulness. You can trust them to accomplish the task. That's why God chose Moses to lead people out of Egypt and lead them, get them on their way to the promised land, because he was a great leader. Also, we see that sometimes you need to have the right uniform. So if you're working with the winter, I show you this picture of these motorcycle riders that are driving like 200 miles an hour around this track, and they have these suits and helmets on, where if they do come off their bike, they're not getting injured and destroyed, and their limbs aren't coming off because they're prepared. And so I want to just let you know that if you have a winter in your life, dress accordingly. If they were in the deck of cards, they would be a spade. Spade represents just working the ground, tilling, getting the work done. They want to get it done. They want to accomplish it. And they have that vision in mind. And even if they have to do it all by themselves, they'll do it because they are driven. Some of the weaknesses of the winter is they struggle with emotions. Again, they're more private people. They come across harsh, and people don't like that. They oftentimes can miss important details. So because I understand I'm kind of a winter, I have to place people around me that are very detail driven and focused. And also to be aware that we can fall into legalism because we love God's laws. But again, and we miss sometimes just the idea of connecting with people in an emotional way, understanding the mercy of God. And so, and understanding the power of joy and the strength of joy. So these are how the winter thinks and the winter operates. And it's interesting because when God tells Moses to go to Egypt, Moses is all in. He says, yeah, that would be great. I'll go to Egypt. I'll lead the people out. I can do this. I'm called. It's a great thing. But then the moment that the Lord tells him that he has to speak to people, Moses backs out. And you can see this in Exodus 10. Moses said to the Lord, pardon your servant, Lord. I've never been eloquent, neither in the past, nor since you have spoken to your servant. I am slow of speech and tongue. Moses said, pardon your servant, Lord, please send somebody else. I mean, he was ready to give up the whole task because he understood that he'd have to talk to people. And then God tells him says, I'm going to send you someone that's going to help you. And so he sends him his brother, Aaron. And Aaron was a summer. And this is the next profile that I want to address. Summers are fast moving, risk taking, and they're harder to manage. They want to be in the spotlight. They have no problem standing up, talking with people. They're not afraid to speak and to share their heart, to share their experience. They are warmer toward people. They love emotions. They're very high awareness of the deep things, and they're very open. They're, again, like in summertime, you have a lot less clothes on. Sometimes people need to put a little more clothes on in summertime, I would say, but it's just, you see a lot more, and they don't care. They're like, hey, this is who I am. And that's what a summer profile is. And God sent to Moses, Aaron, his older brother, who was a summer, to help him accomplish the task of leading the people out of Egypt and then talking to the people, okay? And so we look at this. The first thing we see is they love recognition. They're great communicators often. They're motivational speakers, and they're very influential. And this is what makes the summer personality distinct. When we look at when God brought Aaron to Moses, basically Moses like, I'm not doing it. And God said, what about your brother Aaron, the Levite? I know he can speak well. He's already on his way to meet you. He will be glad to see you. You shall speak to him, put words in his mouth. I will help both of you speak and will teach you what to do. He will speak to the people for you, and it will be as if he were your mouth, and as if you were God to him. And God says, I'll send you Aaron. He'll do the talking. And again, Aaron was also, think about this, chosen to be the high priest. That's why I like to say that the summer people are usually the people that are have just a deep experience with the Holy Spirit, just deep encounters with the Lord, see a lot of manifestations, and they also bring heaven to earth. And they can drive us crazy sometimes because they're just manifesting things of the Spirit. They're shaking, they're rolling, they're speaking in tongues, they're using all the gifts of the Spirit because they're experiencing God on a deep way, and they love to go deep. And they are, lots of fun. They're probably going to be, laughing a lot, and everyone else like, what's up with those people? Well, they're just very connected to what's going on in the spiritual realm, to the deep things of God. And if you think about Aaron, he was the high priest, the one who made atonement for the people on earth so that heaven could be poured out. So we need to really honor the summers in our life because they have something very special that they want to bring to our communities. Some famous summer personalities: King Solomon. Remember, Queen of Sheba came and, tell me, Solomon, tell me about all your wisdom. And people from all over would come. And King Solomon was very good at bringing in people. The Apostle Peter, Peter would always talk first and think later. That can be a problem sometimes. Barnabas was an encourager. Joel Osteen, the great preacher from Houston, Texas, right? He's got a big smile on his face. People feel really good when they listen to him. And, if you got an issue with Pastor Joel Osteen, it's probably because he's a summer sometimes. And they put him on CNN and they ask him some difficult theological questions because he's not maybe thinking doctrinally sometimes as much as, well, how will people feel? That's where he gets in trouble. But he's a great motivator. And when as he preaches the gospel, he's able to touch a lot of people in other ways than maybe I would be able to. And you can tell, that's just his personality. His focus is more people and not as much maybe the laws and tasks and whatnot. And that can also, again, our greatest strength will be our weakness. And remember, King Solomon, as great and wise as he was and influential as he was, he had an issue with morality. He had an issue with following the laws. And this can happen to a lot of people that are very spiritual. They have maybe even have a large ministry and a lot of spiritual things happening, but they compromise when it comes to the morals and the laws. And we got to be aware of that, especially, sometimes we think, hey, God's using me mightily. I can do whatever I want. Oh, that's the, forbidden fruit right there, my friend. Don't bite into that. Oprah Winfrey is a, great influential leader, loves to talk to people, go deep with them, interview them. Like Jay Leno, interviewers are oftentimes summers because they love to talk to people. Newscasters, broadcasters, sometimes they, interviewers, those who are talking to people, they love to engage with people and pull out those things that are in their heart so that the whole world will know. Take those things that are private and bring them out so everyone can hear about those things. And that, again, can be good or bad. President Bill Clinton, he was a great speaker, was great with people. And, you listen to him and you think, man, you just liked his personality, but he had a lot of moral issues going on in his life. And again, these are the things that will destroy your life if you're not careful with how you know yourself and understand yourself. You can't, just because people like you doesn't mean that you violate God's laws. That's just not a good plan. And so these are the motivators. We say the get it done fun people. They love to be around people and people love to be around them. So again, the summers, they're motivated, people driven, high emotional awareness, love to get things done in a fun way, in a motivated way. If they were in the deck of cards, they would be the hearts. They're the people that just, they love people and they're loved by people. Oh, I just love to be around with them. They make me feel so good. And that can be a blessing, they bring joy, they bring happiness to people. Those are positive things for the kingdom of God. If the direction that's connected with the summers is south, figure you go south to get warm. And there's also the idea of a lot of temptation and opposition when it comes to the direction of south. And again, just to be aware that there can be this deception. I've met people who were summers before, and they're just so likable, but that can be also deceptive, because then they think, because I'm so liked by people, then I can do whatever I want, and that's not a good plan. Great story, in the Bible. Moses goes up to the 40 days, 40 nights, top of the mountain. He's going to choose a leader to be in charge while he's gone. Who does he choose? He chooses Aaron. Here's a great leader, talks to the people. Surely things will be okay. I'll just go on for 40 days. And we see what happens. Goes up to the mountain, gets the 10 commandments from Yahweh. And it's actually almost like a marriage ceremony. Yahweh is like proposing to the nation of Israel. And while this is going on, Aaron is leading them into an orgy, basically sexual sin and crazy stuff's going on. And this is Aaron, the high priest, the Holy One of God. How does that work? And so Moses comes down, one of my favorite stories in the Bible, and he said to Aaron, "What did these people do that you led them into such a great sin?" And, Aaron's like, "Oh, don't be angry with me, my Lord." Aaron answered, "You know how prone these people are to evil. They said, 'Make us gods who will go before us.' As for this fellow Moses who brought us up out of Egypt, we don't know what's happened to him. So I told them, 'Whoever has any gold or jewelry, or whoever has gold jewelry, take it off.' And they gave it to me. They gave me the gold, and I threw it in the fire, and out comes this calf." Like, that's really what happened. Again, Summers have a tendency to dramatize things here in a way to kind of cover up the truth of what really happened. It's like, well, that's really not what happened, Aaron. I mean, man, you just blew it. You were so worried about what the people thought, what the people wanted, that you weren't willing to stand with God. And that was his weakness in leadership. And then, of course, I just threw the gold in the fire and out came a calf. Well, no, that's not what happened, Aaron. And so, but sometimes Summers will it can dramatize things a little more, and that's okay. We just have to understand that that's sometimes the way that they might respond, but we got to work through and say, listen, we love you, we bless you, but that was not a good choice there, Aaron. Come on, next time. Summers struggle with time, some of their weaknesses, struggle with being over dramatic, taking a situation and instead of communicating in a way that as a reality, it can be slanted somewhat. And we just be aware of that. They have a tendency to be a people pleaser, and believe it or not, a tendency to compromise. I think it's sometimes what baffles me most is these are the most spiritual people in many ways, how the gifts of the Spirit are operating. But then also there's this tendency to compromise with sin. And that's something that Summers need to be aware of. So when we look at that story, and we also find that God sent Moses a wife whose name was Zipporah, who was the autumn for his life. She was the detailed driven person of his life. And when you look at the autumn personality profile, you'll find that the autumn wants certainty. They want to know the details. For instance, like my son, one of my sons is an engineer. And when I was raising him, if I would ask him to do a task, he would ask like 100 questions. How are we going to do this? Where are we going to put this? How's this all going to work? And I'm just the type of guy, like, just get it done. I don't care how it gets it done. But he wanted to know the details. He wanted to see the finished product before he would feel right to commit to something. And I think we need to understand that, be more, I know now to be more patient with people who are asking questions. It's not, rebellion or, just trying to avoid getting the job done. That's just how they think. They want things done with excellence. And they're also diplomatic. They're thinking, okay, how can we make this thing work together? And their focus is going to be, how can we do this right? How can we do this with excellence? Some famous autumns we find in the scriptures, Daniel. And remember, like an autumn can be the leader. We say the winters and summers are usually leaders, but normally the autumns usually take the second position not always, but normally, like Daniel was not the king, but he served the king, and he served kings. Brilliant, smart, detail driven, and strong. Same with Joseph. Joseph was not the Pharaoh, but he was the one who made sure that the grain was distributed properly. The name Joseph means may he add. I mean, it was just, he was an accountant, but he was brilliant. And usually autumns are smarter than the guys who are actually, or the gals who are actually in charge. They're just very brilliant people. Nehemiah, I think, probably was a same way, a second in command guy, detail driven. Tom Brokaw, a journalist, a news anchor. These guys they know the details and they're very factual. Bill Gates, Albert Einstein. These are these are leaders that have used their ability to understand details that really excel and in many ways to have a lot of power. I think right now Bill Gates has way too much power, in my opinion, and what we see him doing right now is, to me, kind of scary. So they're people that are driven by excellence. We see their motto is "Get it done right." How if we're going to do this, we're going to get it done right. And again, they're easier to deal with. They're more supportive, more normal, easygoing. They're not, thinking of these crazy visions that no one else wants. They're like, oh my gosh, that's so much work. But the autumns are actually they love the details. They love the accounting, the count the numbers. They have more of the worm's eye view instead of the bird's eye view. And we need those people in our lives. Like Zipporah was so needed in Moses' life. God told him to go to Egypt, and Moses was on his way to Egypt. And thank God Zipporah stepped up. Now, this is kind of a weird story, but it'll get the point across. So God tells Moses to go to Egypt in Exodus chapter 4. And it says, at the lodging place on the way, the Lord met Moses and was about to kill him. Wait a second, Lord, I thought you told Moses to go. Well, obviously, Moses missed an important detail, which I guess Moses didn't deem important because he thought, well, I'm just going to accomplish this task. But he obviously was supposed to circumcise his sons and failed to do that. And Zipporah then says, took a flint knife, cut her son's foreskin, touched Moses' feet with it, and said, surely you are the bridegroom of blood to me. So the Lord let him alone. And at that time she said, bridegroom of blood, referring to circumcision. That's an interesting story, but it shows you that Moses needed someone to say, hey, oh my gosh, let me help you with the details. Otherwise, the whole mission would have been aborted because Moses didn't have the right people around him. And Zipporah was that person. She was a detailed person, diplomatic, driven by excellence. But again, these people want to know all the details. They want to understand what you're saying before they're going to commit. Now, for me, if something feels right, I'm in. I mean, just like, yeah, that's God. Let's do it. But everyone's not like me, thank God. And some people need more information before they're going to buy in and join you in helping accomplish this task. Again, Moses would have never been able to do what he did without an autumn in his life. And the autumn, like I said, they're driven on accomplishing, doing things right, not just getting them done, but getting them done right. The direction that goes along with autumn is the west. And if you think about the sun sets in the west, and it's more about the ending, the setting sun, death last, the grace of God to remove the curse. This is how you would spiritualize the direction of west in the Bible. But if you think about a lot of prophets are in the autumn category. A lot of creative people are in the autumn category because they are very detail driven, and they see the vision of how things will end before they happen. And so they understand, well, these things, these details must be accomplished, must be taken care of. These curses must be broken before we'll see the ending that we want to see. And they'll have that sense like, listen, if we don't do this, this is not going to work. And again, there are pluses and minuses to all these profiles, and we need to be aware of. If they were in the deck of cards, they would be the diamonds. They are the the ones that like a diamond, you look at it different ways and it shines differently, sparkles differently. A diamond is a picture of excellence. It's a picture of, just fine tuning in many different ways to look at it. If you look at some of the weaknesses of the autumns, and again, we have the winters and summers, and they're more visionaries, heavenly minded. But you're going to find that the autumns and the springs, they're more down to earth. They're more practical in their thinking. But these are some of the weaknesses. They struggle with authority, oftentimes because they're 10 times smarter than the person that's in charge, because they know all the details. But that doesn't mean you're anointed to be the person in charge. It's just the way it works. They can come across cold because they're very task driven. They're not people driven. They can miss the big picture. Again, you get so focused on the details that you don't see how all the details come together. Many times, I've worked with people that, man, they were great with accounting, but you ask them to see the big picture, their brain wouldn't work that way. They'd be like, I don't know what you're talking about, but I can make sure that all these, bills get paid, and, the money is counted perfectly. And so they may not be the visionaries, but they do a great job of taking care of the details. And also with the autumn, just to be aware that they can have a tendency for perfectionism, which means they don't accomplish anything because they're so, dedicated to perfection that they never accomplish the task. And sometimes you can't get things done. Number one, you can never get things done perfectly, but sometimes you just need to get something done. And it's really hard for an autumn to do it and say, oh, it's not perfect, or it's good enough. And it's so hard for them because they're driven for excellence. But the goal of this is not that I know who I am and I'm not changing. It's just recognizing, okay, 80% of the time, hopefully in my life, I'll be able to live like I was created to be. But when God calls me to do something with excellence, let's say I'm not an excellence person, I'm going to do it with excellence. I'm not just going to get it done quickly. I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it with excellence because the Lord asked me to. So we have to be aware of that in our own lives, that, okay, Lord, I want to do it with excellence, but you just want me to get it done. Okay, I'll be obedient to that. And we need to know when to switch seasons. When I go on vacation, I'm not task driven. I just tell my wife, you're task driven. I'm just going to come and have fun and relax, because I'll get so caught up in, making sure that we get every place on time that I won't have fun. So I'm just like, if we missed a plane, we missed a plane, whatever, you take care of that. We'll stay as long as you want to. I'm just going to be here to have fun. And then that helps our relationship. And just the way things work, you understand how you operate. So just to be aware of that. Again, your greatest strength will be your downfall. Just my own, we look at Moses. Moses was a winter, and you see that God then sent him a spring person to help him in his management style, because Moses was driven to accomplish the task. And it came to a place where Moses, once he led the people out of Egypt, is that every day he would sit, and every person would come to him with their issues throughout the day. And he would sit there and hear people's problems all day, and he would give answers and make decisions. And he, prayed this beautiful prayer during that time that basically said, God, kill me, because he was going crazy, but he was trying to do everything by himself. And, again, he was trying to get the task done, but he was so focused on getting the task done, he didn't take the time to raise up leaders who then would come and, just like Jethro instructed him, and we'll talk about that. So Jethro was a spring, and their drive is to get things done together. How can we pull people together to get the task done? Springs are very connected people. They're driven by stability. So if you ask them to do something and it feel like we're going to hurt people if we do that, or it may bring us, they don't like change a lot because that brings instability. They want security, and they're very sensitive to that. Understand that you got to work with our springs sometimes, that they're going to be very, I'm great with change, but not everybody's me. So some people don't like change, and they get very nervous and concerned about change. But a lot of times that's just their personality. Some of the famous springs we have in the scriptures, Abraham was a spring. He was always, how can we be connected, stay connected? The story about God tells Abraham to go into the land of Canaan, and nowhere does God tell him to bring his nephew Lot with him. But Abraham, because that's his personality, he grabs Lot, his nephew, and brings him with him. And what happens is that it causes a big mess. And again, Abraham should have just should have left Lot behind. He also has the story of Ruth. Remember Ruth in the Bible? Ruth was, very connected to her mother-in-law. Her mother-in-law, Naomi, said, leave, go. And Ruth was like, no, where you go, I will go. Where you die, I will die. Your God will be my God. John, the Apostle John, was an incredible connected person. I believe he was a spring. Mother Teresa, a great leader, connecting people, loving people, sacrificial for people. Martin Luther King was a spring. He was about bringing people together to, bring people together for a social movement that, basically erased racism in our nation and set our nation on the path to where, our nation has been revived and through his words. What he say is not based on the color of your skin, but by the character of our hearts. And Martin Luther King promoted unity and did a great job and was such a blessing to our nation. Gandhi, for the nation of India, did something very similar, brought people together, connected them to stand against oppression, and won and saw great victory. And their focus is on getting things done together. So the springs, they're warmer, they're people driven, they have a high emotional awareness. They want to be connected, secure, stable, sensitive. I remember having a spring on my team, and every time we closed in prayer, that person always prayed for the person who wasn't there. I mean, just thinking about who isn't there. They're very caring and emotionally aware of people. We talk about the story about Moses. Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law, who was Jethro, saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you are doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge?" Well, I want to get the task done. I don't feel like spending time training people. Let's just get it done. But basically Jethro was like, listen, all these people are standing around from morning to evening. Let's change the situation. And this is what Moses suggested. Let's get it done together. Let's raise up some leaders. And to do that, when we look at the direction that goes with the spring personality profile, it's the direction of east. And that talks about the beginning of things. The sun rises. That's what the start of our day is. The arising light, the birth, the first, wings that bring judgment, false religion. Let me touch on the idea. Like I look at in the summertime, it's a time of love. It's a time of sowing seeds. It's where the mothers are giving birth in nature. The eggs are being born, and again, it's just this time. It's a sensitive time, but it's also a very important time, and we have to be aware of these are how the springs operate. But they also can be led into what we call, because they can be passive and led into false religion, because they can be so open-minded that their brain falls out and are not realizing like this is compromise. This is focusing too much on people and not on God's rules and God's ways, and you're being more lenient toward people when God says no. People need to come under the rules that I have given. The word God means ruler, one who has the rules, and we need to let people know. Listen, God loves you, but you've got to come under His rule and His ways and get a grip. Let go of what you feel sometimes. Don't be passive and give too much to your feelings. Submit to God's word. And that's what can be one of the weaknesses of the springs. If they were In the deck of cards, they'd be the clubs. They're bringing people together. Club, I guess that's the way I would look at it. And again, Jethro tells Moses, what you're doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Select capable men from all people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. So Jethro basically says, Moses, let's get some other leaders. Let's train them, choose them, and then let everyone come to them. And if there's an issue they can't solve, then they can come to you. Again, let's do the work together. Good job, Jethro. And he says, have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you'll be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Isn't that the goal? If we set things up right and we work together, people will be able to endure and get what they need. And thank God, what it says, Moses listened to his father-in-law, did everything he said. The difference between outlaws and in-laws is outlaws are wanted. No, that's a bad joke. Anyway, so we look at the spring. With the spring, sometimes they struggle with fear. They can be indecisive because they're too worried about what people will feel, and if people will be separated from them if they make the wrong decision. Man, we're in cancel culture season right now, open season on everyone who doesn't conform. And so the springs may be pulled into that. Be aware of that. Don't be indecisive. Stand on the word of God. If we lose friends, we lose friends. Hey, it's what's going to happen. Death by meeting. If some leaders say, if someone comes up with an idea that you don't want to do, just have them form a committee, and these people will meet and meet and meet, but never get anything done. So that's what happens sometimes, is people just come together and they will talk about things. And I like to say, ready, aim, ready, aim, ready, aim. No one says fire, because they're actually enjoying so much the idea of meeting together, and nothing gets accomplished. So springs can be very down to earth, how we handle people, how we work with people. Such a valuable profile that we need to honor and bless, but also recognize some of the weaknesses that come with the springs. I want to close with one thing. There's also 5 different communication styles that I think you'll find that each profile seems to, adapt. And there's 4 unhealthy communication styles, and there's 1 healthy communication style that I want to address. If the winters, who are the get it done people, their communication style can often be aggressive. We're going to do this. It's a win situation for me. I don't care if you lose. I just want to win. I'm aggressive. I want to get the task done. That's not a good communication style. The autumns are more passive aggressive, and their basically mentality is they will seem passively and agreeable, but they're going to stab you in the back the moment you walk away. That's called passive aggressive. I smile to your face and I'm thinking, yeah, that's right. You win. No, you don't. Watch and see what will happen. The springs can be passive. They'll just say, okay, I lose, you win. And in all relationships, we want to have ideally a win-win situation. I want to win and I want you to win. All right. And so in the spring, they're like, okay, you win, I lose. That's not a good plan. And they can be passive. The summer will be more of the seducer with their words. And these are the dysfunctional communication styles that oftentimes, because we lack maturity, we adapt these styles that are actually connected with our personality profile. And we seduce people, or we flatter people to get what we want so that we win and you lose. And that's not a good plan either. So it's good to, when we go into any kind of conflict, that our communication style is assertive. And again, we have the winters and autumns can be more private, but the spring and summers can be sometimes too open, like almost too open sometimes, and too strong or too emotional sometimes for the conflict to get resolved. but we all have to be assertive. We have to assert this is what we want to see happen. This is how we need to accomplish this, and this is how it needs to happen. We need assertive communication style. Right now in the media, we have I would say the seductive. It's very seductive and passive. It's drama. It's trying to pull people into conflict, and they're not trying to resolve the issue. They're just trying to stay in this place of drama. And what's happening too is now a lot of Christians, a lot of people who understand what's going on can react in anger instead of react in an assertive way. We still have to walk in brokenness and humility in the season, but we have to be assertive in truth, and we have to be assertive in what God wants for this season. So be aware of these personality profiles. At the end of this course, when this is up on, as it's up on Teachable, and you'll get information about that, fill in the questions that are given to you at the bottom, and let us know. These questions will be emailed to us and will help us better understand who you are. Because again, the goal for our ministry is not just to put you in a position where we have a need, but it's actually to understand who you are, what drives you, what motivates you, what angers you, the gifts that are inside of you. We want to put you in a position where you're going to thrive. Now, there's going to be times where you have to do things that maybe aren't ideal for your personality profile, but we're aware of that. And ideally, we want to get to know you and know who you are. And we want you to know who you are, have self-awareness. And so when you are deciding where do I fit in at Gateway Church or wherever ministry you're involved in, this is how the God has created me. And this is where I can be a blessing so that you're motivated. You're doing things that God created you to do and operate in. And then you'll see great success. You'll be motivated, and you won't need outside motivation for you to accomplish what God has for you. Because at Gateway Church, we believe everyone needs to be fully equipped to do the work of the ministry, and that each and every partner that comes into our church to be part of what we're doing should be serving at least once a month in some area. And that's what this course is about, helping you find out where you fit in and how you can use the gifts God has given you, not just to build up Gateway Church, but so your personal life can be built up, so you understand who you are, and so you'll fulfill your purpose and your mission for the kingdom, which is great. We are not the grasshoppers, okay? We are the giants of the land. We're going to take the land because God has made us to do great things. The more awareness we have of how God made us, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, David said in Psalm 139. And I know that full well. And that's what this course is about, getting to know who you are, love and value the gifts that God has given you, and then put them to work in a way where you can develop those skills that God has placed in you. I'm Pastor Chris Monahan. Thank you so much for joining me for this teaching. And I hope it's a blessing to you. For more resources, go to our website at www.igateway.org. If you have questions about this teaching, email me, chris@igateway.org as well. And I would love to talk with you and share and hear your thoughts on this course. This is the Four Seasons Profile. I hope it was a blessing to you. God bless. See you soon.